70% of drivers can't stop in an emergency. They check tread depth. They feel safe. They're dead wrong. I spent 2 years testing 10 tire brands through 40,000 miles. Same car, same roads, same conditions. Most failed before they looked worn out. Today, I'm exposing which brands stayed safe and which became death traps with legal tread. Stick around. Number 1 beat Michelin in the rain. No one saw it coming. Let's break this down. Number 10. Nexen and Farah SU1, the early failure. Nexen makes budget tires that look good on paper. A 50,000-mile warranty. 40% cheaper than premium brands. On day 1, they performed fine. I mounted them on a 2019 Honda Accord. New tire wet braking was 142 feet from 60 miles per hour. For $400 installed, they seemed like a steal. By 15,000 miles, wet braking stretched to 167 feet. By 25,000 miles, 182 feet. The tread looked fine, 6 millimeters of depth, but the rubber was hard as plastic. I pulled them at 28,000 miles. They were dangerous. The compound degraded faster than the tread wore down. Tires that look safe but cannot stop the car. A customer hydroplaned on these exact tires and hit a guardrail. Tread depth was 5 millimeters, technically legal. She could have died because she trusted tread depth instead of actual grip. For dry climates and low mileage, maybe. For anyone facing rain, a gamble I will not take. Number 9. Falcon ZX ZE950, the disappointing mid-range. Falcon markets itself as premium performance at mid-range prices. 65,000-mile warranty, 30% cheaper than top tier. I mounted them on a 2020 Mazda CX-5. New wet braking was 138 feet. The first 20,000 miles were solid. I was ready to recommend them. Then it shifted. By 30,000 miles, wet braking stretched to 171 feet, 33 feet worse than new. At 35,000 miles in heavy rain, I had a near miss merging onto a highway. The tires spun uselessly in standing water while traffic bore down on me. Tread depth was 5 millimeters, plenty of life on paper. The rubber just could not grip anymore. I replaced them at 38,000 miles. They never reached the warranty. Falcon replaced them, but that does not help when you are sliding into an intersection. For dry climates, maybe. For rain, mediocre at best, dangerous at worst. Number 8. Kumho's Solus TA31, the catastrophic failure. Kumho makes affordable tires popular with budget-conscious drivers. The Solus TA31 comes with a 70,000-mile warranty and costs significantly less than premium brands. I mounted a set on a 2018 Toyota Camry for testing. Initial performance was acceptable, but unimpressive. Wet braking was 148 feet from 60 miles per hour. Dry handling was mushy. Road noise was moderate. These tires never felt confidence-inspiring, but they worked adequately for daily driving. Through 18,000 miles, they performed consistently mediocre, not dangerous, just uninspiring. At 22,000 miles, I heard a rhythmic thumping at highway speed. I pulled over and found the inner tread layer separating from the carcass on the right front tire. Not weather cracking, actual delamination where the tread was peeling away from the tire body. This is catastrophic. Tread separation causes blowouts at highway speed. People die from this. I was lucky it happened gradually enough to notice before complete failure. I inspected the other 3 tires closely. 2 showed early signs of the same separation. These tires were self-destructing at barely 20,000 miles. Kumho replaced all 4 under warranty without argument. They knew they had a problem. But replacement does not undo the danger I drove through unknowingly. Tread separation is not just a performance issue. It is a safety failure that can kill you and everyone around you on the highway. These tires failed structurally before wearing out. I will never mount Kumho tires again. The risk is not worth any amount of cost savings. Structural failure is nightmare fuel. But here is what is almost worse. A tire that looks perfectly fine, drives normally in dry weather, and then tries to kill you the second it rains. Ask me how I know. Number 7. Hankook Kinergy GT, the rain disaster. Hankook positions itself as quality import tires at reasonable prices. The Kinergy GT comes with a 70,000-mile warranty and gets solid reviews online. I mounted a set on a 2019 Honda CR-V. New tire wet braking was 141 feet from 60 miles per hour. Dry handling was competent. They seemed like a solid mid-range choice. The first 15,000 miles were fine. Performance stayed consistent. Tread wear was even. No complaints. Around 18,000 miles, I started noticing reduced wet grip. Nothing dramatic, just slightly longer stopping distances and earlier hydroplaning than before. By 25,000 miles, wet braking had degraded to 169 feet. At 28,000 miles, I experienced the scariest moment of the entire test. Heavy rain on the highway at 65 miles per hour. Traffic slowed suddenly ahead. I hit the brakes hard. The ABS activated immediately. All 4 tires lost grip and started sliding on the wet pavement. I was hydroplaning at 65 miles per hour with the brakes fully applied. The car barely slowed. I missed the vehicle ahead by maybe 3 feet. Pure luck. If traffic had been 1 car length closer, I would have rear-ended someone at 40+ miles per hour. I pulled off at the next exit and tested braking in an empty parking lot. Wet braking from 60 miles per hour was 194 feet. These tires, with 5 millimeters of tread, could not stop a mid-size SUV in the rain. I replaced them immediately at 28,000 miles. The tread looked fine, but the rubber was garbage. Hankook's compound turned into hard plastic that could not channel water or maintain grip. These tires nearly caused a serious accident. Tread depth was legal, but performance was deadly. That's the gap between what looks safe and what actually is safe. Rain performance matters more than tread depth. Remember that. Now here is where things get interesting, because not all failures are dramatic. Some tires just quietly become mediocre and stay there. Here is what I mean. General Ultimax RT43, the consistent mediocrity. General Tire is owned by Continental, but positioned as their budget brand. The Ultimax RT43 comes with a 75,000-mile warranty and costs 40% less than Continental's premium offerings. I mounted a set on a 2020 Subaru Outback. Initial wet braking was 146 feet from 60 miles per hour. Dry handling was uninspiring, but predictable. Road noise was acceptable. These tires never impressed me, but they also never scared me. Through 40,000 miles, they remained consistently average. Wet braking at 20,000 miles was 151 feet. At 30,000 miles, 157 feet. At 40,000 miles, 163 feet. The degradation was gradual and predictable, nothing sudden or dangerous. Tread wear was excellent. At 40,000 miles, they still had 4 millimeters of tread remaining. They could have easily reached 60,000+ miles before wearing out. But here is the problem. They were never good. At their best when new, they were mediocre. As they aged, they became worse mediocre. They never endangered me, but they never gave me confidence either. In an emergency requiring maximum grip, these tires would deliver maximum mediocrity. Sometimes that is enough. Sometimes it is not. For a daily driver in mixed conditions doing 12,000 miles per year, these work. They will last 5 years without drama, but they will not save you in the moment you need saving. General Ultimax RT43, the tire equivalent of a participation trophy. Shows up, does the minimum, survives, never excels. If that is acceptable to you, they will work. If you want actual performance when it matters, keep reading, because we are about to enter different territory. These next tires actually cost real money and promise real performance, and some of them deliver for a while. Then they ghost you like a bad Tinder date. Number 5. Yokohama Avid Ascend GT, the slow fade. Yokohama makes excellent performance tires. The Avid Ascend GT is their premium touring all-season tire with an 85,000-mile warranty. I mounted a set on a 2019 Toyota Camry. New tire wet braking was 136 feet from 60 miles per hour. Dry handling was precise and confidence-inspiring. Road noise was impressively low. These felt like premium tires because they are. Through 25,000 miles, they were outstanding. Wet braking stayed between 136 and 142 feet. Dry handling remained sharp. Tread wear was perfectly even. I was ready to declare these the winner. Then the slow fade began. At 30,000 miles, wet braking was 148 feet. At 35,000 miles, 156 feet. At 40,000 miles, 168 feet. The degradation was not dramatic like budget tires. It was gradual, almost unnoticeable day to day. But looking at the data, these tires lost 32 feet of wet braking distance over 40,000 miles. They never became not dangerous. At 40,000 miles with 168 feet of wet braking, they were still better than some brand new budget tires. But they were not the 136-foot stoppers they started as. The tread depth at 40,000 miles was 5 millimeters, plenty of life remaining. The compound had aged and hardened just enough to reduce grip without becoming obviously bad. Yokohama Avid Ascend GT, excellent for the first 25,000 miles, good for the next 15,000, acceptable after that. They will last 70,000 miles plus before wearing out. But peak performance is gone by 30,000. For someone keeping tires for 2 to 3 years and 30,000 miles, these are excellent. For someone running them to 60,000 miles plus expecting consistent performance, the second half disappoints. Slow fade is one thing, at least it is predictable. But imagine paying premium money for a tire that is absolutely phenomenal for 20,000 miles, the best thing you have ever driven, and then it just quits like it had a midlife crisis and stopped trying. Number 4. Goodyear Assurance Weather Ready, the midlife crisis. Goodyear positions the Assurance Weather Ready as a premium all-weather tire that handles everything. It costs premium money, about 20% more than standard all seasons. I mounted a set on a 2020 Honda Accord. New tire wet braking was 132 feet from 60 miles per hour. Outstanding. Dry handling was sharp. Snow traction was impressive. These justified the premium price through 20,000 miles. They were phenomenal. Wet braking stayed at 132 to 138 feet consistently. I drove through a snowstorm at 15,000 miles. These tires gripped better than dedicated winter tires I had tested. At 22,000 miles, something changed. Wet braking jumped to 149 feet. I tested multiple times thinking I had made a mistake. No, 149 feet consistently. By 30,000 miles, wet braking was 161 feet. The tires that stopped in 132 feet when new needed 161 feet with half their life remaining. That's a 29-foot difference, nearly 2 car lengths. The dry performance stayed acceptable longer. At 40,000 miles, dry braking was only marginally worse than new. But wet performance had collapsed completely. At 40,000 miles, wet braking was 176 feet. Tread depth was 4 millimeters. These tires could have lasted another 20,000 miles based on tread alone, but I would not drive them in the rain anymore. Goodyear Assurance Weather. Ready was outstanding for 20,000 miles, then it degraded rapidly after that. The premium price buys you excellent early performance that does not last. For lease vehicles or low-mileage drivers replacing tires every 20,000 miles, these are fantastic. For anyone expecting 50,000 or more miles of consistent performance, they are disappointing. But disappointing premium tires are still better than outright dangerous budget ones. The next three tires are where we finally found sustained excellence. These are the ones that actually earn their price tags and keep earning them mile after mile. Number 3. Continental True Contact Plus, the steady performer. Continental makes some of the world's best tires. The True Contact Plus is their premium all-season touring tire with a 90,000-mile warranty. I mounted a set on a 2019 Subaru Outback. New tire wet braking was 134 feet from 60 miles per hour. Dry handling was precise and predictable. Road noise was nearly silent. These felt expensive because they are. What impressed me most was consistency. At 20,000 miles, wet braking was 137 feet. At 30,000 miles, it was 141 feet. At 40,000 miles, it was 146 feet. The degradation was minimal and linear. These tires aged gracefully without sudden drop-offs in performance. At 40,000 miles, they were only 12 feet worse than new. That's exceptional. Tread depth at 40,000 miles was 5 millimeters. These will easily reach 70,000 to 80,000 miles before wearing out. The compound is formulated to maintain flexibility and grip over time. I drove through multiple rainstorms at 35,000 miles plus. The tires never felt sketchy or unpredictable. Hydroplaning resistance stayed strong. Wet cornering grip remained confidence-inspiring. Continental True Contact Plus, excellent when new, still very good at 40,000 miles, and will remain good until they wear out. The only downside is cost. These are expensive, about $180 to $220 per tire depending on size. But they deliver consistent performance for their entire lifespan. If you're keeping tires for 50,000 miles plus and want predictable performance the whole time, these justify the premium price. They're what premium tires should be. Continental delivered everything you'd expect from a premium tire: solid, reliable, consistent. Number 2. Michelin Defender T+H, the Immortal. Michelin is the gold standard everyone compares against. The Defender T+H comes with a 90,000-mile warranty, and it costs premium money. I mounted a set on a 2019 Toyota Camry. New tire wet braking distance was 131 feet from 60 miles per hour. Outstanding. Dry handling was superb. Road noise was whisper quiet. This is what $200 plus per tire buys you. At 20,000 miles, wet braking was 133 feet. At 30,000 miles, 136 feet. At 40,000 miles, 139 feet. That is 8 feet of degradation over 40,000 miles. These tires barely aged. The compound remained flexible and grippy. Performance was nearly identical to new. Tread depth at 40,000 miles was 6 millimeters. These will easily reach 80,000 to 90,000 miles before wearing out. Michelin's compound technology is genuinely superior. I tested these through every condition imaginable: heavy rain, snow, dry summer heat, and cold winter mornings. They performed flawlessly in everything. The wet grip at 40,000 miles was better than most brand-new budget tires. The dry handling was still sharp and predictable. Road noise remained impressively low. Michelin Defender T+H, exceptional when new, still exceptional at 40,000 miles, and will remain exceptional until they wear out at 80,000 plus miles. Yes, they are expensive. Yes, cheaper tires exist, but nothing else delivers this combination of performance and longevity. These tires justify every dollar of their premium price. I recommended these to a customer 3 years ago. He just hit 72,000 miles. The tires still have 3 millimeters of tread and grip, like they are half worn instead of nearly finished. He will get 85,000 plus miles from them. Michelin Defender, buy once, drive forever. The premium price becomes a bargain when you calculate cost per mile. Now, Michelin is legendary. It is the standard everyone measures against. So when I tell you there is a tire that beat Michelin, especially in the rain where it matters most, you are going to think I am lying. I tested it 5 times because I did not believe my own data. But the numbers do not lie, and neither does physics. Number 1. Bridgestone Turanza Quiet Track, the unstoppable grip. Bridgestone doesn't get the hype that Michelin gets. The Turanza Quiet Track is their premium touring all-season tire that most people overlook because it's not a famous name. I mounted a set on a 2020 Honda CR-V, expecting good but not exceptional performance. I was completely wrong. New tire wet braking stopping distance was 129 feet from 60 miles per hour. That is the shortest stopping distance of any tire I tested. Dry handling was razor sharp. Road noise was the quietest of the entire test. At 20,000 miles, wet braking was 130 feet. At 30,000 miles, 132 feet. At 40,000 miles, 134 feet. That is only 5 feet of degradation over 40,000 miles. These tires did not just maintain performance, they barely changed at all. The compound technology is incredible. At 40,000 miles, the rubber still felt soft and pliable. Wet grip was outstanding. Hydroplaning resistance was exceptional. These tires gripped in conditions where other worn tires were sliding. I tested emergency braking at 38,000 miles in heavy rain. The Bridgestone tires stopped in 134 feet. The Goodyear tires at similar mileage needed 176 feet. That is a 42-foot difference over 2 car lengths. Tread depth at 40,000 miles was 5.5 millimeters. These will reach 75,000 to 80,000 miles before wearing out. The compound is formulated to stay flexible and grippy for the tire's entire lifespan. Here is the kicker. Bridgestone Turanza. Quiet Track costs about the same as Michelin Defender, sometimes slightly less. You are getting Michelin-level longevity with better wet performance. A customer bought these on my recommendation 2 years ago. He drives 25,000 miles per year, mostly highway in the Pacific Northwest where rain is constant. At 50,000 miles, his tires are still gripping confidently in downpours. He is projecting 80,000 plus miles total lifespan. Another customer hydroplaned badly on worn hand-cooked tires and crashed. After repairs, I put him in Bridgestone Turanza Quiet Track. He has driven 32,000 miles, including 2 winters, with 0 grip issues and 0 hydroplaning. He says he will never buy anything else. The wet performance is what sets these apart. Most tires lose 20 to 30% wet braking performance by 40,000 miles. Bridgestone lost less than 5%. That is the difference between stopping and crashing in an emergency. Bridgestone Turanza Quiet Track was the best wet braking when new, still the best wet braking at 40,000 miles, and will remain the best until they wear out. These are not the most famous tires. They do not have Michelin marketing. But they outperformed everything else in the one metric that matters most, keeping you safe when the road is wet and you need to stop now. Which tire are you buying next? Drop it in the comments. Want to know the tire maintenance mistakes that are destroying your expensive tires early? Click the video on screen now. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one, where I reveal which tires failed catastrophically in snow testing. I'll see you in the next.